Let's continue our discussion of digital storage terminology. Digital storage uses the binary system, where everything is saved as ones and zeros. The word that's used to describe these ones and zeros is a bit. It's short for binary digit, and it's the smallest unit of data in a computer. These bits, these ones and zeros, are used to store all kinds of information, from text documents to the digital photos that you take to the sounds that come out of your speakers. To store this information, we use a whole bunch of bits put together. The number of bits we have determines how much data we can store. Now for our next term, if you take 8 bits, 8 of these ones and zeros, and you put them together, that's called a byte. It sounds like a mouthful of food, but it's spelled with a Y and it refers to 8 bits put together. You can think of 1 byte as the amount of space required to store a single letter or symbol in a text document. So if you wrote a paragraph with 500 characters, that would require about 500 bytes of storage space. That brings us to our next term. If you take 1,000 bytes and put them together, that's called a kilobyte, often abbreviated as K uppercase B, or just K. Now I will mention just once that there are actually 1,024 bytes in a kilobyte, and that's because digital storage uses the binary system and everything is expressed in powers of 2. That said, it's okay to just think of a kilobyte as 1,000 bytes, similar to how a kilogram is 1,000 grams or a kilometer is 1,000 meters. 1 kilobyte is enough space to hold about a third of a page of text. Back in the late 1970s and early 1980s, the 5¼ inch floppy disk was a popular storage medium. It could hold 360 kilobytes of information. So now, what's it called when you have 1,000 kilobytes? 1,000 kilobytes is called a megabyte, abbreviated as capital MB. 1 megabyte is enough space to hold about 1 book, 1 photo, or 1 minute of music. Keep in mind, those are approximations and could vary widely based on the quality and type of encoding. The 3½ inch floppy disk, introduced in the 1980s, could hold 1.4 megabytes of data. Now you may be wondering, what's it called when you have 1,000 megabytes? 1,000 megabytes is called a gigabyte, abbreviated as capital GB. A gigabyte is enough space to hold about 1,000 books, or 1,000 photos, or 16 hours of music. By the mid-1990s, a 1 gigabyte hard drive could be purchased for a couple $100s. Nowadays, 1 gigabyte is considered very little storage, and you could get a 1 gigabyte flash drive, SD card, or micro SD card for just a couple dollars if you could find one at all. So now, what's it called when you have 1,000 gigabytes? 1,000 gigabytes is called a terabyte, abbreviated as capital TB. A terabyte is enough space to hold about 1,000,000 books, which is around 80 school libraries, or 1,000,000 photos, or 2 years of continuous music. Nowadays, a terabyte of storage is readily available as a hard drive, solid-state drive, or even SD or micro SD card. So, to recap, we talked about how there are 8 bits in 1 byte, 1,000 bytes in 1 kilobyte, 1,000 kilobytes in 1 megabyte, 1,000 megabytes in 1 gigabyte, and 1,000 gigabytes in 1 terabyte. And that's enough to know for everyday usage. But for those of you who are curious, after terabyte comes petabyte, then exabyte, then zettabyte, then yottabyte. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you have a better understanding of digital storage terminology.